like that might be the case. Oh, there you go. Hi. So I was talking to myself. I just want to make sure everything looks good before we kind of get started. So there's a few things that I definitely want to talk about. Today is going to be the 6th house, and it's a house, as I call it, the sacrifice house. So in order to get to what you call moksha, so which means surrendering the world, or surrendering everything that needs to be done. And so I feel like the 6th house is such an important house. There's so many of us kind of say, you know, so the 6th house is not a really a good house, and the 8th house is not good, the 12th house is not that great. I feel like the 6th house is the best form of learning that we can have. Yeah, learning can be hard. It just depends on what kind of personality you kind of take on as an individual. And that just being said, the 6th house is a really powerful house. And so I really want to talk about what that represents and how it goes on. If you want to know who I am, how I practice Vedic astrology, please, there's actually a video that I actually made and dedicate. I kind of just want to get right into it right away and talk about the 6th house for those that are especially trying to look at their chart at the first time or want to review it. I'm just another angle of putting it all together. So it's just a different way of saying it, and obviously I'm a different ethnic background as well, and how I practice Vedic astrology. So that being said, the 6th house, it really represents health and well-being. So let me say that again. It actually represents health and well-being. So when you maintain good health, it's also indicating a building ability to fight off any, you know, thing that you have that comes obstacle in your life. We all make mistakes, right? Because we're human, we're not perfect. And if you think you're perfect, well, the universe has a way to make you learn that lesson either. Facing challenge is another one. So if you're in competitions or anything in that place, you're going to face those competition. So it could be also legal battles as well if you own a business or anything like that. That's coming off from the 6th house. As well, if you are going through some sort of any legal gains as well from the legal system, that's also comes in the 6th house, a little combination with other stuff. But that being said, it's actually how we deal with these mishaps, such as like disease, misfortunes, opportunities, enemies, crisis are what you define as a person, as a human being. That's what I'm trying to say here. The 6th house also denotes our fear, whether we can overcome them or not. You know, any jobs that kind of represent the 6th house is, I always feel very strongly in this area, is service, employment. You know, also it could represent central themes in the 6th house. So what lesson of service that you have learned in your life, you know, what works and should do, and who should you serve and who serves you. So that could be a servant, that could be an employee, and it could be a relationship that who applies upon their, you know, someone who actually helps you bring money in, kind of thing. So, and all governs by, you know, the position of the 6th house. So it's important to keep yourself strong and prepared. You know, we can talk about the mindset. That's all like something in a different video that I have to make later on. But if that's something that you're interested, leave down a comment down below. And if you really have a strong 6th house, tell me if you actually have servants, employees. Tell me down below if that actually happens to you. You know, it's so interesting. You know, I kind of woke up really late today, and I have to be quite honest because I'm considered to be a hard worker physically and emotionally, and that's all the 6th house. I work long hours, and I love what I do is because I got to put in the work. I got to put in the labor hours. So that's what 6th house really represent here. You know, the 6th house also relates to obstacle, debts, difficulties, and enemies that we talked about. And overcoming the opposite is the 6th house, most related to healers, such as doctors, okay? So if you're a healer and doctors, that's a big one too. If you're a police, a military, that's another part of that as well. So this is also, the 6th house represent, you know, the type of food, the healthy food that you can be eating, the daily lifestyle, the routine. So the daily, what I call the daily annoyance that affects our health, largely extended. You know, if you are working long hours and you're getting colds and stuff like that, that has to do a little bit more of your sixth house. But, you know, we can talk about other charts from there on. But there, you know, just remember that astrology, what I'm telling you right now is like it's just a little thing that I'm really represent the whole chart itself, because there's divisional charts. There's just a lot of things that's happening. I'm talking just basically when you look at a chart, this is what it all represent. We talked about, also it represents crisis, natural illness is another one that you could actually see as well. I think we talked about competitive, what it represents, and career based on higher education. Your university degree will be dependent on the sixth house too. A strong sixth house never gives durable partnerships. That's another part of it. It's, you know, it's a little bit gray when it comes to Mars and Saturn. So I just don't want to get to the planet per se. I just never really want to talk about it. But I just want to talk the overall pictures. And that being said, so if we're talking about daily routine, the sacrifice our mentality of happiness, that for something more worthwhile is deeper lesson as the second Artha house. So it shows up the work and the effort that we must expand if we are manifesting things that we want. So, you know, as I get older, and that's just in general, I don't want to be doing this long hours, or maybe if I'm having kids or children, I don't think I can put in the long hours. So that could be something that you have to consider. So if you are a lawyer or an accountant, and if you do overtime, you are actually executing your sixth house, because the opposite of the sixth house is the 12th house, and that's the house where we go on vacation, we go and escape this world. That's where we go off and do that. So it's our busy work life is the sixth house, is a distraction prior to nurturing from our food, the different cells in our body that we have. It also represents our intestines in the body. And yeah, so take care of have a healthy balance. So be aware, if you want to work long hours, just take care of your health and illness. So have a proper balance. I think in our society, I think especially our Western culture, we call it work-life balance. If you never heard of that terminology, if you're not an accountant, that's always been the case. But it's now, I think they have changed it, work-life fit. So whatever the client is, you have the case that you need to complete before you go enjoy yourself. But a lot of companies, employees especially, they really want to talk about work-life balance. You know, maybe in different culture like Japan, they're a little bit different. They work longer hours, and, you know, they socialize a little bit different than Western culture. So they have longer hours. Their social hours are a little bit different. They kind of treat their employees a little bit different. They're like a little like families. So they go drinking afterwards, they hang out, and so that's their work-life balance. I think in our Western culture, we kind of just want to hang out who we kind of like. So that being said, we're not talking about culture today. We're just talking about in general, like what kind of work life has. Interestingly enough, if you have pets, the sixth house represent pets. It's who we care for as well. We talked about competitors. So if you are an athlete, that will be it. If you are owning your own business and you have a competitor, I think that's another part of it as well. So, and our employees is another factor as well. So we got to take care of that. So we can talk about that type of activities that matters. So paying our bills is another one. Performing is another one. Unrewarded tasks. So if you are doing things but you're not going to reward, or it's not part of your job description, that's what it is. Like getting to work, getting into your car, driving in that long traffic. That is one of them, okay? So spending money, and we're talking about non-monetary investments, so you don't get anything in return. Dieting is another one. Sacrificing happiness in the moment of something bigger, service. Fighting an argument. So this is really interesting part about it. So type of environment that could be encountered are like accounting office. How funny is that is. On our knees in the bathroom cleaning the toilet is a big one. I don't know how many people out there enjoy doing that and just doing daily chore house cleaning and errands and stuff like that. The doctor office, the veterinarian office, the service of oriented jobs. Objects can be anything like vacuuming, cleaning, supplies, and even like disinfect things as well, like products, medicine, and brooms, and just stuff that you clean up. And that's where it really is. Mars has a really interesting place that has that fact. So Mars is the doing, and the Saturn is more like the mentality task that can do it. If you have a strong one, it really showcases that you can do it without complaining, or you actually enjoy that. So that being said, that's where it is. Just remember that how I explain this. So the 5th house really produces many things like we want. So like the creativity, the romance, the fun part, making children. And the 6th house is all about maintaining it. So the difference between the 6th house and once we start resenting the work, we must do in order to maintain it. So those resentments will produce strong opinions like, I hate this, I don't like this. Oh, I hate this person, or oh my God, I have to go and deal with them. It's all about enemies, and you don't like dealing with health problem. It's just a drag. It's just really painful. This is where the 6th house happens. Let me see. Yeah, I could talk about yoga. We'll just save that for another one. If you have an important yoga you want to talk about, we can put it down. I feel like the 6th house is really where you allow yourself to detach your ego, which is the 6th house activity becomes, protects us, especially from our physical health. Because that's no ego. You can't have an ego in that area. It's more of like this non-enjoyment of a factor. But I kind of like it. Sometimes I'm kind of tapping in between if you're tapping between the 5th and 6th house, things that you like to do, but it is work, then you're in the winning game, right? So that's where it is. So the power of love to expand us beyond our own personal fulfillment and likes and dislikes get tested all the time. And this is where it is. It can be very unpleasant most time. We love children, especially our own children, but we don't love changing the diapers. Does that make sense? We love creating art, but it takes work, time, money, sacrifice to do it, right? We love all, we could love all to make the living pursuing our own heart desire, but there's a lot of competition, sacrifice, and training involved, and even so many things that has to be done a daily base. So like if you don't like meetings, that's what it's going to happen. When we don't actually fail ourselves to lose our own enemies, those are the things. We don't like going to the doctor when we're sick, but we have to go to the doctors. So from neglecting or even attachment to our daily physical routine to the struggle battling against anything other, it's hard work. We must have to dignify any resonation between the service of the higher cause in our life. So that's where the evolution is when it comes to the 6th house. And that's really what I feel like the 6th house has a powerful place to be. And I think my question to you is, what are you doing in your 6th house? How are you taking care of your 6th house? If you can't afford an astrologer, maybe I can help you with some of the questions that helps you doing that. So really, what are you not taking charge of? What is your goal, and what are you making happen on a daily basis? How do you present that in the world? If you want to share that, please do comment down below. I love to hear from what you are kind of working on, even your wins and your loss. I want to hear it all. So the question really is, what goal are you working on a daily basis? So that would be the first one. The second one would be what are you mentally doing, in a sense of how are you taking care of your mental health? Are you meditating? Are you not doing anything? How do you allow yourself to be in that place of peace? Because remember, the 12th house is at peace. So when you act of service, when you're busy, or your mind is so crowded with thoughts and ideas, how do you allow yourself to calm it down? You know, do you write journals? Do you meditate? What do? Do you do mantras? And so, and the third one is, it really represents Mars here. How do you fight off when things are bad? How do you deal with negative situation? That could be conflict, enemies. That could be defending. That could be competition. How do you do that? And the fourth one here, it talks about really how do you use your organization skills to make things happen here? Do you use a calendar? Do you write it down? Do you have an alarm clock to make sure that you are on time, on task? Like being the project manager, that's really what I want to call it here. The detail-oriented. How do you make sure you don't lose track of it? Right? And the next question has to really represent, I call it Jupiter, and I feel like this is, what are you really grateful on a regular day base? Even though it's unpleasant, what are you grateful about? What have you learned? Jupiter is about learning. What have you learned on an everyday base? Are you the type of person who really takes the challenge, love learning, love problem solving, and get up and do it again tomorrow, and you wake up and breathe that stuff no matter what? If that makes any sense here. And really, Saturn is all about, you know, intestine, digesting, healing, health, anything in that lesson. What lesson have you learned? Really, that's what it is. What is the lesson have you learned about daily stuff? How can you actually improve it? Health problem, that's the same thing, working long hours. How do you have a healthy balance? Who is actually helping you? You know, I talk about you, but use your other resources, other healers. Like we're talking about doctors, any even crystal healing, Reiki, any part of that. How are you dealing with it? And who's actually helping you? It's not always about taking care of you. It's allowing other people to take care of yourself too. And I think that's all I have for you. But if you can definitely comment down below, I would love to hear what's going on with you as well. And I want to hear what do you want to learn about Vedic astrology, so I can actually go ahead and make videos on that. The next house is going to be the 7th house, which is my favorite house, is the house of relationship. That's what I specialize in. And I look forward seeing a lot of you there. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll see you next time. Namaste.